to the August 20th Conservation Commission meeting. All right. Before we start, I would like to just remind people, if you have electronic devices, please turn them off or silence them. If you would like to make public comment, which you are more than welcome to do so, we need you to go up to the podium, tell us who you are, and address the board. All right, with all that being said, I got another wonderful announcement. The Conservation Commission and the Administrator have been nominated to complete the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge by the Zoning Board of Appeals. In particular, Surrey. And I would like to extend a real happy, you betcha. And the 24-hour thing, we're really going to be stretched to try to do it within 24 hours. So I hope that they can appreciate our efforts to do so. It will be done, and I just can't guarantee the 24-hour. And it's going to be interesting to see who we get to nominate. It may not go out of this room.
Yes.
So, the levity out of that. Now, next is minutes. We vote July 30th, 2014. Has anybody read the minutes?
I have, Mr. Chair, and I found just one error on page 9. In the top section, there's a comment attributed to Mike McGrath, and I believe it was Jennifer who made that comment, talking about the town doing the nourishment down at Menard on the Pasnaquoi situation, and one of the residents had complained that there was no problem before the town put a berm on the beach, and then the comment here is, do you mean the coastal dunes? I can't believe that they cause puddles on the road. And yeah.
How could you get into confusion?
Other than that, I think that the minutes are accurate.
Do you have the correction on that?
Yes, I do.
And do we have a motion?
Second.
Yes, we have a motion and a second. Any comment from the board? Any from the audience on this? Seeing none, a call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Next is August 6th, 2014. Has anybody read those minutes?
I have not.
Okay. We're going to do that next week. Moving on, request for determination of applicability. This is the lesser of two permits that will be discussed this evening. This, you want to hear a negative determination. The negative determination allows you to do as the administrator and staff is instructed in this process. So if you hear a negative, it's actually a good thing. First is 3 Tonset Road, North Falmouth, for permission to pump, fill, and abandon the septic tank and leaching pit and to upgrade with a new Title V sewage disposal system.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff has reviewed the project and we're recommending a -2 under the statement bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any other discussion from the board? Is there any discussion from the audience on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Okay, several people just walked in. I'd like to remind you at this time, if you have any electronic devices, phones, to silence them, please. There's an agenda on the chair as you come in if you need it. And we're in the RDAs right now. Next is 146 Old Dock Road, West Falmouth, for permission to pump, fill, and abandon the existing cesspools and upgrade with a new Title V sewage disposal system.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the statement bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board? Is there any discussion from the audience on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. This is continued request for determination of applicability. First is 380 Wild Harbor Road, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove the existing sewage disposal system and replace with a new Title V sewage disposal system.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was continued because we wanted to talk to Mr. Lander's colleague about the possible presence of a wetland. We're satisfied with the delineation and the siting of that septic, so we are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion from the board? Is there any discussion in the audience? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 45 Toby Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to license the existing pier structure under grandfathering to acquire Chapter 91 licensing.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was continued last week because the applicants had dropped off a significant amount of information for us to review close to the hearing, so we just weren't able to review it. You have the staff report in front of you without reading everything that Mark's saying. Your grandfathering policies say that the dock must be in continuous use since '78 for you to grandfather. A summary of Mark's findings, the wooden dock had been in use before the wetlands regulations from the 70s to the early 90s, based on the aerials and the applicant's photos. The structure of the dock went originally from pipes to a 4x4 wooden post structure in the early 90s, and the dock appeared to have widened at that point. The dock did not appear in use from post-Hurricane Bob, so August of '91 to around 1999. The property was first assessed for the dock from 87 to 95 for approximately 9 years. And then the assessment was dropped, and it has not been assessed for a dock from 96 to today, which is 19 years. And the dock has been stated as seasonal, but aerials from years available found to be present in March of '68, April of '75, December of 2010, but it was not present in August of 2003, which is during a summer month. So basically, that's Mark's analysis of the information that the applicants provided, so you just need to determine whether or not you feel that's enough to grandfather the structure, or require the applicants to file a full notice of intent and bring the dock into actual compliance with your current regulations.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. We did provide a series of photos and a package to you folks by hand delivery through your staff on Monday the 4th. Only then, because it took that long to get things out of archives and the family photos in the attics and all places that you keep stuff like that. And we discovered that we needed them from Mark the week before, so we did our best to get them to Mark. They were FedExed to me and hand-delivered on Monday the 4th. So we asked for a continuance because it was logical. You didn't have a chance to really review them. I hope you have by now. So on the 6th of August, we just didn't even proceed other than to say we're doing our best to prove that it's grandfathered. My client was here. And then we continued it. And the very next day, I attempted to reach out to Mark to try to expedite things and go over the photos, and I didn't hear anything. I followed up a couple times, so I know he's busy, but the memo that's in your file, I got today only after asking at 10:03 today, which is, you know, not enough time to respond. So there's a lot in there that we don't agree with after we read it, so we feel that we should deserve a right to be able to respond to it, because we really and truly think we meet the grandfathering criteria. So I think some of the information in that report needs to be disputed, and we haven't had a fair chance to dispute it. So I actually called my client, and he authorized me to ask for the continuance. He was halfway here from suburbia and made an exit off the highway and headed back north, because there's no sense in talking about it tonight, because we need to digest and respond to that memo that we just got today.
Mike, what time did you say you received the staff report?
I got an email at 2:49 today.
2:49, so Mark didn't talk to you about it before then?
He had a couple brief conversations, and I agreed to disagree with him.
Okay, I was just, because I asked him if he had sent that to you
Yeah.
this morning when I spoke to him about it, and I was told, yeah.
No. So I ended
Okay.
up coming over to the office today, and he said, I'm just about to email you. And
Okay,
that's when it happened.
So it's my understanding that,
well, I mean, the board can grant the continuance. Mike, you can, I can sit down and go over where you think the discrepancy are. It's
Yeah.
pretty factually based, so I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure where the
Like-
discrepancies are.
Well, we read it, and there's explanations for a lot of the dates of missing photos.
and what I'd like to do is entertain if the applicant wants to do that, because I too did not read this till I get here. And so, I'd be willing to entertain a motion for a continuance so that the applicant can have discussion with staff so as to iron out any potentials, and the next time we see this RDA would be either up or down. Realize that there would be no more continuances after that.
That's fine.
You get a date?
Well,
work?
either
I
Mike,
hope-
you
I
want the 27th or the 10th?
I don't want the 27th, because I don't think that's enough time.
Okay, how about the 10th?
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, unless we get some late-breaking memo again, that we don't have, that's something new that we didn't know about. Can I just ask a question? Have you folks looked at the photos, and do you understand the package of photos that we submitted on the 7th to your
They
staff?
don't, we have it in the file. I'll make sure the board has
Okay.
availability to it.
Those are original photos, because a lot of them couldn't be copied, and Mr. Rice took a lot of time to put that together. And they're very revealing, so.
And I look forward to seeing all that.
So call me, Mike, and we can set up an appointment to go over everything.
Yeah, so what date are we doing?
You want to do it for the 10th, correct? That's the
that-
next available one after the
After
27th.
27th, then that's what I'm gonna take. 'Cause
Okay.
I don't think a week's enough time to.
Probably not.
I'll make a motion on behalf of the applicant to continue this till September 10th.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board? Is there any discussion in the audience from this? You all set?
I'm all set.
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Next, we have a request for continuance of hearings under a notice of intent, 18 Surrey Lane, East Falmouth, for permission to expand the existing deck, install native mitigation plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant's representative has requested a continuance. They'll be staking the site for you all this weekend. They want next available hearing, which you do have availability on next week's hearing. So 1 week to the 27th.
At the request of the applicant, I move that we continue this hearing to August 27th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Next is the request for a hearing under a notice of intent. I'm going to read my little spiel here and then give an explanation of something. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. At this time, I've seen more people come in. I'd like to just remind people, if you have electronic devices, phones, such, please silence them. If you want to make public comment, and we encourage that, you have to go to the podium, identify yourself for the record, and take your time to make your wisdom known to us all. We're going to take one out of order in this portion. It's the Town of Falmouth, 650 Gifford Street, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to construct a new 8 million gallon day capacity water treatment plant, raw water pump station, raw water intake to abandon reconfigure water mains at the existing Long Pond Pump Station and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. We're taking this out of order because we had an on-site for this, and instead of this coming in at the end of this is a very brief notice. We've gone through this. So I just want to get this off the board so we can dedicate better time to other things.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you continue the hearing so you could all attend a site visit and get a greater comfort level with what was going on in your jurisdiction by speaking with the engineer and the town on what exactly was proposed next along pond, the directional drilling, the location of the pump station.
Correct.
Is that what it is, Patrick? The pump station and all the excavation work in that area. If the board does not have any additional questions for the town's representative, you can close the hearing.
Yes, Mike.
Refresh my memory as to the period when the dewatering will occur?
That would be directed to you.
Yes.
Good evening, my name is Patrick O'Neill, project manager with Tate and Howard. We are here on behalf of the Department of Public Works. The dewatering, as it's planned now, would start the late spring of next year, and it's probably going to run 4 months in duration. The exact timing is strictly up to the contractor as far as means and methods, but we're proposing that the in-pond work be done in the winter to lessen any potential impacts on the water supply aspect. But the pump station, which is the dewatering work, could be done anytime. But
My only walking the site, I think the plans are well done, well thought out. We requested information, you provided. My only concern, the only concern is the impact of the dewatering on the vernal pool. That is, personally, I believe that it probably varies enough from year to year that dewatering in one season isn't going to have any negative effect, but that is, and if other members are concerned, I would suggest that a observation well be installed somewhere near the pond so we get a chance to see what effect the drawdown has. And that's my only.
Observation well in the vernal pool or on the pond?
The vernal pool. Yeah, somewhere near the vernal pool. That would be the only, and I'm not concerned. Vernal pools get various degrees of stress from year to year due to variations, and I think one season of a short period of time, the critters will, do just fine. But one of the effects of dewatering is the effect on wetlands, and I don't think we should just, ignore that potential.
do you feel that a monitoring well is needed, or would a staff gauge do for the surface water?
Well, I think we can give you some options. You can respond. If the pool is responding in a manner that people wouldn't expect and there's pumping going on, you won't know whether it's the pumping or whether it's the season. So that would give you the opportunity to come back and, I'm not trying to make something out of it. It's just that we have, our obligation is to protect the resources. There is the potential for the dewatering to have a lowering in the water table in the vicinity of the pool, and we should have some way of knowing what it's done. It's such a short transient event. I got to believe we're okay, but I think we can probably put into an order of conditions and we'll be fine.
I'd just jump in. I think we can drop a shallow piezometer in. We could go over with Jen, shallow piezometer that we can monitor the surface water level on the outside and the groundwater on the inside. And it could go in advance of construction. And then we have some baseline going into the work and then just monitor it as we go.
Okay.
I realize that when this gets closed, that what you had just said is not probably going to be part of the record. That is going to be, and that's easy enough to install. That's not very invasive.
Yeah, and I hope that
That's fine.
would do it. And yes, it's,
Okay.
we could hand drive it, that we don't need to take machines into the wetlands.
That's
And accomplish what you're looking for.
I think we just found an answer.
Very good.
Are there any other
Thank you,
questions
Mike.
on the board?
Not a question, but I have a comment. For the record, we received some suggestions from residents across Gifford Street, and so they don't think that these have gone unnoticed. I just want to acknowledge that we did receive them, and also they proposed 3 alternatives to the one most directly across from their neighborhood entrance, and they make the case that those other 3 are commercial seasonal establishments, so the amount of disruption would be less. But I think, in fact, certainly with respect to the Steamship Authority parking lot, probably the other 2 as well, the disruption to the public at large would be much greater, and I sympathize with them, but I don't really think they're going to be much bothered, and I don't find their argument persuasive.
Well put. Anyone else got anything on
I'm
it? Is there any comment from the audience on this project? I would entertain a motion to take this and close it.
Make a motion to close the hearing, take it on advisement.
Second.
That's your choice, Sue. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. Any other questions or no other discussion? All right, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Patrick?
Have a good night. Back to the notices of intent. Next is 14 Wicker Tree Road, North Falmouth, Mass., for permission to raise the existing dwelling, construct a new single-family house to pump, fill, and abandon the cesspools, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, driveways, appurtenances, a very underused word, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Barbara Pratt here with Warwick & Associates, representing Bob and Patricia Sweeney, who own 14 Wicker Tree. As stated, this is a raise and rebuild project. The jurisdiction is to a isolated freshwater wetland at the back of the property, and there is a 100-foot buffer to that wetland, and a portion of the work will be in the outer portion of that buffer. If you will look at the plan, you will see that the house that is there now, the new house will be moved slightly closer to the street, or farther away from the wetland, should I say, than the existing house. I didn't count the fact that the outdoor shower and everything is also going to disappear. So, and as well, we're going to remove the shed that is tucked in up against the woods in the buffer. The overall change to the structure in the buffer is a net decrease in structure in the 100-foot buffer of 224 square feet. So with that, we don't have any mitigation planting. However, I did notice something, and I am offering it to you here. There is an area that looks like a path been made by someone down towards the wetlands, and we will be planting that with some viburnum or clethra as part of the project. It's out, I believe it is outside or very close to the edge of the jurisdictional limit. But it goes all the way down to the wetlands, so I would say it's pretty close. So we're going to make sure that that pathway gets cut off with vegetation. We will install a limit of work siltation barrier. There'll be a brand new Title V septic system, which will replace the cesspool, which is within the 100-foot buffer to the wetlands. The new septic system will be outside that buffer. So it's a pretty simple project, and I think an improvement to existing site conditions.
Thank you, Barbara.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any comments.
Okay, thank you. Mary?
My only question is, on the plan, I see one dry well, and I was wondering if there's just one.
Small, it's not that big a house. They may just trench it around into the one dry well. I don't think I mean, if they need to, they'll put in 2, but I actually don't know how with the gables and everything, how the downspouts will work, but of late, most contractors on smaller homes have been running it into the one dry well.
Okay, thank you.
Ross?
Oh, I have no problems with this, a lot of positives to it, so I have no problems with it.
John?
I don't have any problems with this, no questions.
Yay.
Mike?
Oh, I gotta say something.
Yeah.
I'm very
You have
glad,
something,
no,
right?
you addressed it already. You're proposing to put bushes into the path where
Yes.
people will be using yard debris.
That is correct.
And then you've taken care of that. I wish I had some way of moving that holly tree, but what can I tell you? It's gone, and I feel bad for it.
I know, there are some lovely hollies there, and,
Yeah, but that is a pretty spectacular, you know, that's
I
gotta
mean,
be
the one to
12,
the left
14
of the
inches.
house,
Yeah.
To the, behind the house, right in the corner.
I don't think they're gonna lose that. I think they're gonna be able to
Yeah,
keep that.
you're going right into it.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, it's right off the screen porch.
Well, let me see if we can get someone that could, I don't know how well it would transplant. I imagine if they got a really good arborist, it's not gonna go right.
They wouldn't like it.
I wouldn't, you know,
They wouldn't like it.
it's.
Well, they
I'm
might
just,
like
you
it
know,
better than just being
I'm-
chopped
I'm
down.
with
Yeah, I
you.
know, but-
Yeah, you've taken care of my concerns. It's outside our jurisdiction. I'm just telling you, it's a lovely tree.
It is a gorgeous tree.
How else would you know I was there?
You'd find something.
If you could do us a favor and put
Yes.
a dry well detail on the plan.
Oh, you like them on the plan?
Yep, that way when the contractor looks at it,
Submit it in the,
I don't know.
well,
I'll just make it part of the title block or something, so
That's
it
all right.
always is there.
outside of that,
Oh, I gave
yeah, I
it
know,
to you?
yeah, that's the detail of that, but if it's on here,
okay,
I kind of get, you know,
Okay.
somebody, they give this to the guy and say, put it here, and he looks at it, you know, it's a.
Oh, I did a better job than I thought.
Yes, you did. I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
Okay, now that we have a motion and a second, I don't want anybody, when a project comes up, we will do that. I'll poll the board and then open it up to the audience. Okay, I'm not avoiding, when you hear that, please don't get freaked out that we're closing the hearing without public comment. Is there any further discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you,
Thank you
Barbara.
very much.
See you, Bob.
oh, she's stepping out.
Now, going on, this is 131 McCoy Highway for permission to install a seat, nope, I'm sorry, I took that, I jumped ahead of myself, I'm trying to, sorry. Next one is Surrey Lane, that got continued. Now it's on to O'Brien, 78 Bourne Street, East Falmouth, for permission to raise the existing dwelling and construct a new single-family house with a deck, entry, stoop, bulkhead, outdoor shower to install a new walkway, native plantings, mitigation plantings, and the associated clearing, grading, and landscaping. Do you have any comment this time, Jen?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Sir?
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Robert and Carol O'Brien, who have plans to raise and reconstruct the house at 78 Bourne Street. The plans before you and the board that's up here show the proposed work. First, I'd like to just outline the wetland resources within jurisdiction. There's a dirt road on the very east side of the property known as Great Bay Street, and just east of that is a slope that meets the standards and specifications as a coastal bank. It's non-eroding. The top of it is shown with triangles and designations that was staked in the field. It's just on the other side of Great Bay Avenue. That is the only wetland resource within 100 feet of the proposed work, just southeast of that is a dune area, and then beyond that is a salt marsh. We're also nearby to a velocity zone. We've shown the limits of the velocity zone and the 25-foot offset to that, which is a requirement of your regulations on the plan. That is on the east side of Great Bay. So this property is not in a special flood hazard zone. There's an existing single-family dwelling on the property, and it's shown on sheet 1 of the plan set. It's also shown on sheet 2 in a scaled-back gray tone, just for reference. There's an existing Title V septic system that serves that house, and that system will continue to be utilized because it's not in conflict with the new house. The new house is shown in this brown color, and adjacent to it in a lighter brownish color is a proposed deck, and the entryways are shown. On the west side of the house is an existing garage that's proposed to remain, and then there's an existing shed that will be removed and a new shed built. The 50-foot no disturbance zone to the top of the bank is shown here. There's no work within the 50-foot no disturbance zone. The existing house and the proposed house are in the outer buffer zone B to the coastal bank. We did a calculation of the impervious surfaces in the B zone to come up with the mitigation planting requirement, and that's tabulated on the plan. And the mitigation requirement in the area of those plants is shown in this corner of the lot. Unfortunately, we're not up against another wetland resource, so we can't really enhance the buffer to the coastal bank because Great Bay Street is there. So we're required to plant on our lot, and we tried to get it as close to the wetland as possible. So that's the location we proposed. The walkways and bulkhead and other things within the 50-foot no disturbance zone are shown. There are some other parts of the house that are outside that zone, and that's where the air conditioning units will be, so they don't come into the calculation for impervious surfaces. We show dry wells. I think this is a pretty standard redevelopment project, and we designed it to meet your regs at 10.18, and I think it meets those regulations and the regulations found in the Wetlands Protection Act. And I'm happy to take questions.
Jen? John?
Glenn Office has actually worked on the sale of this property, so I think I have to recuse myself from this decision here, but I will note that there's some nice beach plums out there on the corner of the property.
Yes. Mike?
Your mix of the vegetation, is this in the same corner as the existing lilac bushes? I mean, you're going to take out an old bush and put in new bushes?
Did you go out to the site and see a lilac?
I did.
Because I don't remember the lilac.
Up in the, right in the same corner, right where the corner.
I
I think it's a lilac, but you know, I'm a civil engineer. It could be any kind of bush.
Well, I didn't survey the lilac, so I didn't intend to have it removed. So we don't plan to take it out. We could shift and move that
Well, that'd be a good thing.
around. I mean, that green area, 250 square feet, can be sort
That's
of
fine.
dynamic
if
in
we
shape.
From my perspective, that's a good thing. I like it. Okay.
If you want us to not remove the lilac, a condition would be fine.
You know, I'm a civil engineer. There may be people on the board who can give me an idea of whether I've got a good idea or a bad idea. I don't know, but from perspective, it's a pretty mature, good-looking bush. I'd like to, you know, if we can leave it, leave it. I'm done.
Russ?
No questions.
Mary?
No questions, and I'm fine either way about the lilac.
Right. I have none as well. At this point, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing, take it on advisement.
Second.
Okay. Hearing that, any further discussion on the board?
Oh, Just a comment. Normally, I'd be concerned about the number of bedrooms you're going from to, but with that whole area, the little pond area is going to be sewered in the near future, so my concerns about the impact on Great Pond are going away.
Understood.
At this point, I'll open it up. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to comment on this project? Please come up and identify yourself.
Hi, I don't have so much as a statement as I do some questions for the engineer. My name is Ann Milburn Estes, and I'm the daughter of Nancy Milburn, who is the neighbor right behind the stockade fence. And since my mother and father don't live in the house anymore, but have kept the house, I'm the agent for it, and we're here most summers. And my mother had a few questions. We're very excited about the family that bought this house, and we're looking to be good neighbors. She just had a couple of questions. Is it okay for me to ask those at this
Yes,
time about plans
sure,
for the
yeah.
house? Okay. First of all, we're interested in the number of stories for the house. We understand that the house will have a similar footprint, it looks like. Is it 1 or 2 stories?
I have to look, I don't remember. I don't know that I have the architectural plan with me. My own memory, I don't have the whole thing.
Mike has to go up and address this as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Should I ask all the questions first?
If they're all directed to Mike, if it's,
Directed
a-
to Mike.
Because
Yeah, there are only a couple.
I get middle-aged moments now and then, so.
Well, as do I. Okay.
It only gets worse,
I'll write
Mike.
them down for you, Mark.
So we're interested, obviously, my mother has a beautiful view going that way. Sorry, I'm not good with north and east and all that, but we can see just fine going that way, but also we have a lovely view that goes out to the sound over the O'Brien's stockade fence. And so we're interested how far the house is going to come out towards Great Bay Road. I think that's been answered quite well. And also how high the privacy fence may be. Is it going to be any higher than the stockade, existing stockade fence? Okay, thanks. And also we're interested in the foundation and what kind of digging may be involved. Because we abut very closely, as you are well aware. And so our foundation is fine, but we're interested in any potential impact of digging a new foundation. Will there be a new foundation back?
Are there any more questions?
That's it, just basement, foundation, and the number of stories and the number of bedrooms.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I wouldn't be a good waiter because I wouldn't remember the food was. The foundation will be a standard basement, full cellar, 8-foot plus or minus excavation. There's already a full basement in the house that's there, so the existing house will be demolished, and part of the excavation's already there from the old cellar. All the old concrete will be removed. Then they'll dig bigger to the same depth. The soils are very easy excavating sands and gravels. There's no boulders, there's no potential impact to your foundation from things like that. The excavation's far enough away from the property line. About 20 feet or so, that there'll be no sloping or undermining of the excavation that would have any potential to encroach onto your land. So I don't see there being any concerns about the excavation. My recollection is the number of stories is 1.5. It's like a Cape-style home, 1.5 stories.
if, I'm gonna just jump in here if I may. If there's any other aesthetic questions that you want to do, this board is got the environmental issues, okay? If you'd like to have a discussion with the engineer afterwards about that, just so we got a full agenda, just to keep this moving. All the environmental questions that you have, if there's any of those, any more questions to do with the environmental and our jurisdiction, please don't hesitate, but if not, and Mike's done with his explanation, I'd like to move along.
Sure.
Okay.
I think that was it? The three things? The
That's it.
fence?
The view, she mentioned the view.
Yeah.
Non-environmental issue, but the new fence won't require.
Okay, so is there any other comment from the audience on this project? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your input. All right. Next is 189 Sea Pit Road, Wacoit, Mass., for permission to construct a fixed timber pier, 4-foot by 99-foot walkway, 6-foot by 16-foot terminal T16, 10-inch pilings, 4 6x6 posts, support timbers, decking, railings, and the associated clearing and landscaping. Jen, do you have any comments at this
I'll
time?
save any of my comments until after Mike's presentation.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Richard Setti. Mr. Setti owns the property at 189. There's a single-family dwelling on the property, and he has a boat, and noticed docks nearby, so he called us to see if it was possible to have a dock, and I told him that it was, if he met certain standards. So we went out and started to explore the possibilities of a dock in this area. The property, single-family dwelling on the property, a typical developed lot. There's a very low-profile coastal bank with a salt marsh at the base, mean high water right at the edge of the salt marsh, and then, of course, land under the ocean, land containing shellfish resources beyond. The lot is in a flood zone. So we went out and did soundings to verify that we could provide the required 3 foot of water depth at low tide, and that we could do that without being longer than the maximum length allowed of 100 feet from a salt marsh. So we've demonstrated that on the plan. We then went to the harbor master and consulted with him to make sure there were no issues with him, because we're required to provide you with a letter from him. We initially met with him back in April before we went and did a shellfish survey to make sure everything was okay. He submitted a letter and he referenced a date that was the date on the plan at the time, which was, I believe, in April. And his comments in that letter made note of this existing mooring number 70, which is close to the dock. The dock was staked. I hope if you went out there you saw the stakes. At very high tides it might have just went under the water, but we tried to stake it so you could see it. And you can see that this mooring's close to it. So the harbor master wants that relocated at the owner, at my applicant's expense, to a position just south of here. So there's no conflict. So certainly that has to happen. We got a follow-up memo from him because I realized he made reference to a plan with an April date on it, and he reasserted his same comments for this plan date, and it was an email that I sent to Jen. So we satisfied the harbor master. The water depth issue seems to be in conformance. We then retained Vaccaro Environmental Consultants to do a shellfish survey, and that's in my application, and it's provided in the notice of intent, and the data from the survey came to the conclusion that there's very little animals out here, shellfish. There's a couple noted on they're noted on the plan, but the density is well below the 1 per 9 square feet maximum density allowed. So we believe we conform with that requirement. So the dock itself was designed as they're typically designed, as a 4-foot wide timber walkway, pile supported. The details are on the second sheet. There's a profile and cross sections. The T is 6 by 16, which is at or just below your maximum of 100 square feet. We're showing seasonal water and electric that will go from the dock and run to the house with a very shallow trench. We've provided through-flow decking for the decking, which allows 50% sunlight penetration on the entire deck surface. Even though we're only required to do it over the salt marsh, it's a good product, and I recommend they use it for the whole dock, which is good, just to provide sunlight to the bottom throughout. And we meet the setback requirements. The minimum setback in your regulations 10 feet, but we, from a property line, we designed this to be 25 feet from Rivers View Road, and it's more than 25 feet. It's 44 from a projection of this lot line, and it's more than 25 from a projection of this lot line. Those are the requirements at DEP under Chapter 91, so we meet those standards. Piles will be driven from a barge that'll float at all tides. Standard construction that you've seen before, and we're able to issue orders of conditions on. So I think this proposed dock meets all those standards. I think it's approvable, and I'm here to answer questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen?
No, Mr. Chairman, my only question was going to be your through-flow decking, Mike, 'cause I hadn't seen it on your plan, but I see it in your typical pier cross-section. Will be a requirement that they use that at least over the marsh. And that's it.
Okay. Mary?
Mike, I have a comment for you, and I have a question, I think, for the administrator probably, although you're welcome to address it also. My comment, just to, maintain my reputation for pickiness, but it's really, I think, as much in your favor as anything, or to your benefit. The Shellfish Survey Report, in the introduction, it says that the survey was conducted on June 5th, 2011. That's the first date I read. I realize now that that's a typo, and it says the correct date in a couple other places, but since that date is older than what we would need, I think, we should correct it we can correct it by hand on this.
Yeah, you're right,
Okay.
that's a typo. He did it just after we got the fund, did it as soon as he could after the harbor master was okay with the project.
Okay, I don't have any doubts about that. I'm just saying because the date is an important factor, so. The other point is also about the shellfish issue, and I'll let you address it first if you would like to. I find there's all the mapping indications from the state and the town, I find to be a little ambiguous on their own, and also tending in the opposite direction towards your survey findings, and just want to know what you think about that.
Well, I can tell you in general, I'm not a marine biologist, but I can tell you what my consultant tells me when he does. The maps that you see referenced are sort of a broad brush. They recognize the area as a potential shellfish resource in general. It's not until you really get in and do some real hands-on sampling that you discover what the actual population is in the bottom and the substrate conditions and whether or not they're favorable for, shellfish to, the populations to increase. And it seems as though more often than not, the on-the-ground information that they actually do will sort of dispute the broad brush sort of characteristics that may be on those maps.
Okay. And Jen, do you have any?
I'm trying to look at the way it's written. the density threshold is pretty well defined,
Yeah,
as
right,
is
I'm
the
more,
requirement for
I
it.
have more
if
questions
there
about
was,
the
like,
mapping requirements that
You
in the
mean the
regulations.
historical use, where it says that in the regs?
Mhm. And if it's mapped, I guess the thing I have the most question about is the state's letter in relation to the regulations. It seemed to me that the state was
They
kind of
always,
hemming.
yeah, I mean, they,
It seemed to me that the state was not being very explicit.
No, they won't.
no.
They're vague as,
They generally map all the shoreline along
Okay.
the coast says
So-
habitat for quahogs and soft shell,
And it's-
particularly quahogs.
Okay, so I take it this is not a concern for you, that aspect of things?
No, I'm satisfied with Jack's.
Okay. Thank you, that's all, Mr. Chairman. Thanks.
us.
No questions.
Mike,
No question?
John?
I was just wondering if you could tell me what materials you're going to use for the pilings. What-
Well, we specify that they'll be non-CCA. They can't be. The actual, there's options, and we left it sufficiently vague so they could get prices. You can
Okay.
do like exotic woods like greenheart, which are farmed, they're not harvested from the rainforest, but there's some timbers you can use. There's timber encased pilings that are encased in like a rubberized coating. So I typically I'm not specific so that the owner can look at options and price it accordingly, but I do specify no CCA treated material because
Right.
your regulations say no CCA treated.
Right. And so the whole dock coming out is fixed. It's not something that's floating up and down.
Right.
It's fixed at that height. Do you know what the anticipated use of the dock is going to be?
There'll be a recreational boat that'll tie at the T. I don't know what the specs are on the boat. The boats they range from like, your 15 or 16-foot whaler up to, you might get a 30-foot center console sort of fishing recreational boat out here. Most of them are shallow draft propellers.
And just one other thing there, I think there was a discrepancy, I don't know if you addressed that, between, you said there was going to be 10-inch pilings, and then on the plan it was 12.
Yeah, we want, I'll clear that up. I specify 10-inch pilings now, not 12. So
Okay.
there might have been a leftover on a detail. I
Okay.
apologize for that. But they're going to be 12-inch diameter pilings.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 10-inch diameter.
Yeah, just to say, hold up,
Just
10-inch.
10-inch.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
What's up? We've had this discussion before. 6x6 post hand dug to 6 feet below grade.
Does it say 6 feet?
Yeah, I've done 6-foot holes.
tired of leftovers.
It gets really wide, it's to hand dig something like that, if you have an auger system or something, or just go as deep as you can, 6 foot.
6 isn't
ain't
going to
gonna
happen. 6 isn't happening. I apologize for that. I thought
Okay.
I fixed that. And we still need to-
Good, because
It's good. They're going to be hand dug, and you're right.
if you give it 6 feet, I want to see the guy with that arm.
So I'd be happy to revise the plan or make it a condition, either way.
We'll make, it's not that big an issue, just wanted to, the other one, as I was walking out there, maybe because I'm getting old and what if that ramp came up just a little bit further? Because right to the edge of the grass, because you're still coming down the slope to that ramp. And I just think it would promote a bad situation. Slipping, bringing coolers down there, and it just would start really wreaking havoc on that. And I think a way to avoid it would just get the ramp up, to level it out a little bit more. And I just think it would be, if you had to put additional pile in, I don't know if you would or not,
I don't think it would.
minimal. It's just, you don't have to, but for the sake of carrying a cooler out there, or the kids running with life jackets or whatever.
Well, I'll talk to my client about that. If, it'd be good if we could close the hearing, but we have a long way to go before we're gonna be able to build this, because we have to go to the state, and that's gonna, the goal is to try to get everything in line if we do by the spring of next year. So I could talk to him about that, and certainly come in for an amendment for that. It seems like it would be approved. He'd probably be amenable to it. I don't think he's here. So.
It's just a thought.
I mean, I'll talk to him about it.
All right. Have we got enough information?
I had one other question that I forgot to ask, Mike. It isn't clear to me where that's coming in, because it looks like the path and those stairs going down to the shoreline are going to stay there, and that it's coming in next to that?
Side by side is the plan, yes.
Okay. Or are you taking out any of the vegetation that's there, or is it just going?
There's just a very small amount right next to the path. The path's in a lighter green. We were gonna just remove this one little area next to it, so that they still have kids that
Go down to the beach. They were hoping they could keep both.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
the plan.
Okay,
To the water, I should say.
Yeah.
Not a beach per se, but.
right. Thank you.
Do we have enough information? An entertainer, a motion?
Move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Okay. We'll go with Mike on the second on that one. All right. Is there any comment from the audience on this project? Is there any further discussion on the board? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Mike. This is the one I was looking for. 131 Wacoit Highway, Wacoit, Mass. For permission to install a seasonal pile-supported research dock with ramps and floats, repair existing stairways, expand the deck, install native mitigation plantings and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Those will go there.
Thank you. We don't need it.
Do you have anything at this time, Jim?
So, but-
You all set? Okay. Good evening.
I'll save any of my comments till after.
Hey, I'm Jeff Oakes from CLE Engineering. I'm representing the applicant, the Wacoit Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. Also with me here tonight is Chris Weidman, Nancy Church, and Jim Rassman of Wacoit Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. The project in front of you is the proposed repair of two stairways shown here in brown, the extension of an existing wood deck, and the installation of a seasonal research pier and dock. As described in the project narrative, the Wacoit Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve is a laboratory that conducts regional scientific, educational, and recreational resources, with its headquarters down at the reserve, but most of the research is performed out of this boat shed here that's been in existence since the 1800s. The reserve's overarching goal is to improve public-private decision-making regarding coastal resources. The facility is managed by the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation, and it also receives funding from the federal funding from NOAA. The headquarters shown here provide the facilities and logistical support, including boat support access to the Wacoit Bay and the surrounding waters, salt marshes, and barrier beaches. The reserve maintains an intensive environmental monitoring program aimed at providing scientists with data, which then is passed on to the scientific community, local towns, planners and other engineers that can benefit from the research in order to improve water quality in estuaries similar to LaQuoit Bay. Let's see, all the boat activity, as I mentioned, is conducted out of the boat shed, and researchers from all over the country come and work here during the summer months, and one thing they've noticed is the lack of a pier or a research dock. That has a lot of drawbacks, and the most obvious is their boat operations. They have to haul their boats up now to the beach to load the scientific equipment and then head out and do their research, deploy various monitors or whatever projects they have going on. This location's is desirable in the sense, or is well-suited for ongoing research in that it has power and light, and that there are dorms nearby, and that the researchers can go out easily from here and deploy their scientific monitoring equipment. They also, Webner, or the Research Reserve, regularly hosts educational activities for students and teachers, and they are able to use the waterfront to bring students down and teach various water quality issues and ecosystem concepts. I don't know if anyone from Webner at this point wants to add to the needs for the project and their goals.
Would this be the point?
Yeah, absolutely, it's your presentation, however you want to manage it.
No large presentation.
For the record, my name is Chris Weidman. I'm the research coordinator for the Wacoit Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. And I just wanted to pass out, I've got just some short handouts on research activities and current projects and monitoring activities at the reserve. I'd like to hand out to the board, and I have extras here for anybody in the audience.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I didn't want to make a long commentary. There's also somebody else from our education department who will be speaking, who would like to speak shortly after me to talk about more of the educational activities and mission of the reserve. But I will speak to the research aspect of the reserve, which of course is in its name, the Wacoit Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. Just a reminder that for those who don't know, the reserve is one of 28 reserves in a national system. That's why it's got that national there. And it's got a sort of, one of its main missions comes from NOAA, and that is to improve the health of the nation's estuaries through research, education, and stewardship. And so we have both the protection, research, learning, education for kids and the public, resource managers and such, as well as a protection natural resource mission. Just to enlarge a little bit, again, for those not familiar with the reserve, it encompasses, Jim helped me out with this, but about 2,800 acres of lands and waters, about evenly divided between those two. The lands, of course, are directly under the reserve's ownership and stewardship, State Department of Conservation and Recreation, and the waters are more of a mixed use. We don't have ownership per se, but other than they're under state ownership. But we do have a mission to use that area that's long been established to carry out research activities and educational activities. And the reserve has long supported coastal and estuarine research, not only in the area. Our mission is really a national mission, and researchers come from all over the world, literally, to study, use that bay. And the reason they do is because of all the research that's gone on there already over the many decades, provides an extremely rich source of information that's already understood about a system. So it becomes, we throw around the word natural laboratory, but this is a system that is well studied. So any additional studies or any further studies that go on there have access to just a tremendous amount of information, both in the past, and we also have an ongoing continuous monitoring system and monitoring programs that continually bring new information in as to the current conditions of the system. So I handed out to you a list of just current research activities. These are the research activities, research projects that are ongoing. I have to, just for our own national funders, NOAA, we have to update this about every 6 months to let them know what's going on at the reserve and what is active. So I was able to just draw some of that from that. As of July 1, I've listed about 25 active research projects. It means teams in the field, it means people in the field, it means researchers out there. It doesn't mean every day. Sometimes some just come along once a month, but some come along in force every now and then with many people and equipment and stay for several intensive days of sampling and whatnot. And on the last page of my handout to you, I also gave you a summary of the major reserve monitoring programs. What the reserve does itself, we're in the end a small organization of about 10 or 12 of us, except seasonally we grow with seasonal help to carry out some of the help with recreational activities throughout, because we have both a campground and beach out at South Cape Beach. But we also take interns and things like that that help out with the research and the education stuff. But a large part of what one of the main things the research portion does is provide a platform for researchers to carry out their activities. We're a small group. I've got a small scientific staff right now of basically 2 of us or 2.5 of us. And so we don't do all the research. We do some. We're certainly deeply involved in it all. But we provide a place for that research to happen. Much of it comes out of our home institutions here in Falmouth, Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, National Marine Fisheries Service, the NBL, Woods Hole Research Center, U.S. Geological Survey. All of those scientists at any one time since over the 15 years that I've been there, at any year, some portion of them are there, or some portion of different labs and research groups are in the reserve. I notice it a lot because they often need boat rides, or we need to get equipment to a location or instrumentation to a spot on the water or somewhere up in a marsh, and we've got to load them up on the boat and get them out there and get them in there, working the tides and the weather to do it. So I'm well aware, not all, but I would say most of our projects require some sort of marine boat support. And when we talked about before, there are other places on the reserve. We have a laboratory building, there's a visitor center and offices, there's a dormitory, there's a new facilities building. So there are other things. This isn't our one and only building, but this is where the center of the marine activities occur. There's nearby parking. We can get people to the water most easily through that portal, basically, right there. So hence, there's a lot of activity associated with that location. And one of the other things that the reserve does is carry on a lot of monitoring activities. That's providing sort of the information platform or framework, if you will, for research to happen. In other words, we're out there, a lot of the activities that the staff itself is involved in is running these monitoring programs 24/7. You know, a lot of our data is 15-minute data. Those are instruments, that pile of information that comes down that we've got to handle, databases, get that out, get it on the web, allow people to use it. But we have a lot of other citizen, we use the help of a lot of citizen volunteers and a lot of our other monitoring programs to gather data about the entire area, from shoreline change, erosional changes, biology, water quality, groundwater issues, the whole thing. So just to reiterate what it is that we do, and that we're an entirely public mission and given a mission to do a better job of taking care of our estuaries through this stuff. And at this time, if possible, my colleague Nancy Church. Oh,
Let's let Jeff talk more about design.
oh, okay, okay.
Thank you.
So back to the overall project description again, to note the resource areas. We're working within the Wacoit Bay area of critical environmental concern. I've shown in blue the land under ocean, which extends to mean low water. And we've got land containing shellfish up to mean high water. And we've got coastal beach shown here to the base of this strip of salt marsh here, strip of salt marsh here. We have a vegetated coastal bank extending up the bluff. And then we have a buffer zone, a 50-foot zone A buffer zone to the vegetated coastal bank. The project, as I mentioned, consists of the installation of 2 stairways. These are currently concrete stairs in bad repair. This lower staircase that runs from the deck down to the beach is not in code in the sense it doesn't have the right rise to tread ratios. It's much too steep, and it's somewhat dangerous if someone's carrying a tray of equipment or whatnot down there and they're expecting a standard stair step. It could throw them off. So what we're proposing to do in both cases is to essentially install wooden treads inside or on top of the existing treads. It's just building over the stairs. There's also an area here adjacent to an existing wooden deck that's going to be expanded and created an additional 180 square feet of wood platform that can be used as a staging area prior to going down the stairs to the beach. That's again within the 50-foot zone, or the 50-foot zone A buffer, and in mitigation we've provided the 3 times that 180 square feet or 450 square feet of mitigation planting shown here. The function of this is proposed to be a seasonal research dock. All the structures are to come out at the end of each season with the exception of 4 12-inch greenheart piles that are used to anchor the 100 square foot float at the end. The float's used to tie up the vessels that are typically moored. There are, I think, 9 or so moorings out here onto which the average 20-foot long research vessels are tied off. But in order to load the equipment, currently those boats would have to come to shore or else a dinghy would ferry equipment out there. With the installation of a seasonal float, the boats would be able to come off their mooring, tie up here. The researchers could carry the equipment down and then safely load the boats and then go off to their mission. So that's plan view. What we have is, again, 4 piles, year-round piles, driven piles, that would support the seasonal 5 by 10 sections, 2 sections, so 100 square foot floats. Then there's a ramp down to that float, and then there's a floating pier section here. It's 40-foot long, 4-foot wide with a railing. The state requires this to be ADA compliant, so I had to put railings on the ramps and the pier. There'll be water running along top and just fastened to the side of the floats. And then there's proposed to run electric out to the near shore pile in order to power year-round monitoring equipment that might be mounted there. That would be installed in a trench through the beach and then fastened to the support system for the pier, which would be, in this area here, we've got 10 6-inch diameter galvanized pipe driven into the surface, or driven about a foot above the surface, into which the seasonal piles would be inserted and the floats attached to that. Those piles would be pulled out and the sleeves would be remaining in the substrate, extending about a foot up off the substrate in order to attach the electrical conduit. The electrical conduit in this would be attached to a 4x4 beam, or stiffening beam, so to speak, that runs between the sleeves out to the near shore pile. And then you could put the conduit on top of that so it doesn't flex in any current. it provides some rigidity to the Schedule 80 conduit that, into which the electricity is going to be snaked and routed up to the top of the near shore pole. Then there's a detachable box there that can be taken off if needed, or if it's used all year round to run equipment, it would be left in place. So construction-wise then, the sleeves would be driven down, again, as I mentioned, they're permanent pipe pile sleeves, would be driven to about a foot above the substrate, and then into which the piles, what do we call them? Call them pipe piles, essentially, that we slid into those sleeves. And out here, in the deeper end, is where you have the 4 Greenheart 12-inch diameter piles that are driven. The top of these piles are driven above the 100-year floodplain in order to, in the event the reserve was not able to get the floats off in time, in order to keep the floats on the piles in the event the storm waters did get up that high. But it is intended, and as shown in your notice of intent filing, there's a hurricane preparedness manual that is intended to, in the event there's a storm coming, they could easily remove all these floats and have them hauled away to, seasonally in the wintertime, they're going to be hauled away anyway. Where are they going to go? They're going to go, and then they'll be trucked around and brought back onto site and stored on site up in the upland area. So that's, again, you've got 2 ramps here. I've got stop logs to maintain the 3-foot clearance from the bottom of the floats at the deep end, and then there's 18 inches of clearance all the way on the floating pier. The floating piers sections are also tethered to that 4x4 brace in the event they are not removed in time and the storm waters come in and could lift them off of these piles. But they're tethered with a 30-foot long tether of each piece so they don't float away. I guess I have included a couple other sheets, but those are primarily construction details of the stairs. So I could take questions at this point.
All right. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. When reviewing this project, I think the board, Webner does trip, I think it's about 4 of your performance standards. One of them I'm not too concerned with, and that is the one that requires the 10-foot offset of the mitigation plantings to a house. They don't meet that with the proposed wooden platform, but staff doesn't have too much heartburn on that. Another note on the mitigation plantings is usually you require the plants to be 3 feet on center. They have them 6 feet on center, but that can be conditioned. So staff is comfortable with the proposed wood platform, on the sonotubes, and the proposed reconstruction of wood stairs over the existing concrete stairs. That just needs to happen to clean that area up. The dog doesn't meet some of your regulations, so you do need to weigh hardship and public benefit. And that is what I'm going to recommend to you, is you need to look at the project closely and weigh the pros and cons and weigh the public benefit aspect that Webner has presented to you when reviewing this project. I do have one question, Jeff. The boat rack?
Yeah.
Is that on the plan?
That's an existing
Yeah, okay,
rack
that's
there.
that little one out
It's
there.
just like the 2x4s. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
okay.
if that's even used
I
anymore.
wasn't sure if it was like a new tall one or
No.
not. Okay, and that is it. The shellfish survey, it's an older one. It's when they did the one back in 2009. It tripped the density then. I have no doubt that it trims the density now. So that also needed to be added. Jeff, in the variance part, is that you trip the shellfish density under 1034. So don't be surprised in a decision if I reference that as well.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay. Mary?
I don't have questions for the applicants. I do have quite a bit of concern about the variance request and the hardship aspects, which I don't think are met, but perhaps that's better saved for our deliberation.
Okay. Ross?
Maybe I missed this. Where would this be stored in the winter?
That's another thing we should be.
The winter would bring it.
If you do, you gotta come up and identify yourself, please. Thank you.
For the record, my name is Jim Rossman. I'm Stewardship Coordinator and Acting Manager at the Reserve. They'd be stored, on our 25-acre facility. They'd come all the way up to our maintenance shed, most likely during the wintertime.
Hand carried up, or would they be,
Yeah, we'd bring them right up the steps and then just load them on. We can back right down to the boathouse of the truck and then take them up to the maintenance building. We do have the option to store them in the boathouse themselves in the winter. So, depending on how much research is going on in the winter, if they're not in the way, we could do that as well. In either garage at the boathouse, that's down at the water level.
The other question I had was, there was something mentioned about lighting.
Not that I know.
No, there's no intent to have any lighting here.
No, not, because that was one of the concerns of one of the ladies there.
Nope.
Wonderful.
Okay. Mike?
First a comment. I don't think we should ever take what we have for granted. That area provides a tremendous service to the town in terms of what it attracts. It could very easily be residential or other kind of development that is wonderful in some ways, but I don't think it has the benefit that the facility does. And for the most part, thank you for being here, I guess is the message. To questions, will the dock increase human traffic into the resource area?
It's not intended that any further, I should probably let the operations people manage that, yeah.
So no, the dock would be intended to support our research and education activities that go on now, which are significant. We bring a lot of people down to the beach through our classroom programs and our teacher education programs and the research that Chris talked about. But the intent is to support ongoing work. And it also includes...
Is some activities or structures draw...
No, the other thing that you could call additional would be that a lot of our school programs currently use the beaches down, thank you to the neighbors that allow us to cross over their beaches and do a lot of their sampling in the marsh. And the dock would allow them to do some of those instruments. They drop a lot of instruments in for the day, the kids doing things right off the dock. So that would actually maybe lessen the cross-beach traffic, on the education side of things. But not additional, it wouldn't be additive total.
I'm Nancy Church, and I'm the School Programs Coordinator. And one of my biggest challenges is that we serve a lot of students. We do the entire 6th grade of Falmouth, which is 12 classes. They come over a series of about a month. And many of the students most of the students come without shoes that can get wet. And it's a real problem because lots of the things that we need to do. So you end up sending 1 or 2 kids in to do a lot of the testing while the other kids stand around. And I see a dock as being a huge advantage to let many more students, maybe they just don't own shoes that they can wear into the water or whatever it is. It's true of all the schools that come, that very few students are prepared no matter what you say beforehand. So for me, it would allow more students to be able to participate in the activities as opposed to just standing and watching those few that come prepared.
Thank you. How long to dismantle this thing? If we have hurricane threat, hurricane warning, how long to take this thing apart and get it out of there? And I'll be very truthful, the thing that disturbs is the issue that most concerns me is this is a velocity zone.
Right.
And you gotta be more concerned about a dock and velocity zone than you do in a dock someplace else.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Jim knows the operations and what he has available for staff as well.
So yeah, I don't know the timing because we haven't done it yet, right? But the one thing is that, you know, that we're different than many applicants in that we have, you know, paid staff. So we referred to, we have 11 permanent staff, you know, 3 of which are here tonight. But in the summertime and into the fall, we add on about anywhere from 10 to 12 seasonals, including the 3 island managers that live on Washburn Island. So the good news is, during hurricane season, you know, it's all hands on deck, and we have an active hurricane plan. So I'm confident that we have the physical bodies to you know, disassemble the dock if need be. That's one thing we do, and many other things we do in hurricane preparedness, you know, with our facility.
Following up on that, what kind of a fire drill does it look like with a hurricane coming down on us? Is this going to add to your problems?
Of course it adds to the level of work. I mean, nowadays, you know, Chris does a great job of, he's way out ahead on hurricanes. You know, it's kind of one of his interests on weather forecasting. So, you know, we usually start talking about these events, you know, a week ahead or so. And then we start prioritizing through the plan, depending on the storm track and, you know, what we think forecasted winds are going to be. And then we kind of go into what level we're at all the way up to, you know, taping windows and bagging computers and all that, which we have done in the past. So yeah, this adds one more thing, but in many cases, if you're familiar with the facility, with those old buildings, it's, you know, we already have quite a bit to do. So it's one more thing. This would be pretty high on the priority list because I think this would be triggered at much lower than, you know, I don't want to give the board a feeling that would only address this dock during hurricanes. I would address it at any time we felt like there was a danger, and in many cases that's not a hurricane. Sometimes our worst wind events up there against the head of the bay are not the hurricane issues, you know. So
this is one of those things where we could condition the, you know, with some kind of triggers, but that if you don't have the bodies to do it, then, you know, it's a piece of paper and it doesn't do anything. So
Sure.
that's part of the trigger. A technical, the elevation designed to the current FEMA standards? This thing didn't hit the transition, did it?
I designed it based on the map that went into effect in July.
Very good.
Yeah.
And the last one is you really have 3 projects in front of you. Are they linked? If we found that the platform and the stairs are okay, but the dock presents problems, can we link them or can we break them?
Yeah, they can be treated separately, yep.
That's my too many minutes worth.
John?
I don't think I have any questions.
Okay. Yeah.
Could I have another shot?
Yes.
I'd just like to press a little bit on Mike's first question about disassembling the dock and see if you could just kind of estimate. You spoke about this being a high priority of the things you would do with the storm coming, and I'm wondering if you could just give us a sense of, in terms of the number of people involved and the length of time involved, where this would be on your to-do list, the biggest job.
So the main thing we look at with storm events, number one priority to look at is boats, right? Because we have 9 moorings, so we have 9, well, we don't always have 9 boats on our moorings, but, you know, we have up to 9 boats on our moorings. And this would be right there. So, I mean, essentially it's another, you know, it's a flotsam jetsam issue, you know, and it's, you're protecting our property, to be honest with you. We're usually the ones that suffer most, if you're familiar with head of the bay, during storms, for other people not being maybe as proactive as we are. I mean, I can only say that in you know, we are, you know, very active because we have paid people who are there during the day. So in many places, the other boat owners are out of town on a crazy storm that comes up, where we again have paid staff, you know, that if need to, we call people in on overtime. So, and many of those staff members, you know, 3 of which are living on the island, they have to tear down the camp on the island. We have to pull all the boats, you know, bring them all up, and the dock would be another boat essentially. It would be, and now the dock's got to come so, I can't say I have the time, for this, until we do it one time. If it's an hour, if it's 2 hours, if it's 3 hours, but it would be that first set of things we do, which is secure the boathouse and pull the boats, pull the dock, and then we start addressing mansion windows and, things getting blown away on the bluff and those types of issues. And we also have Southgate Beach, and Washburn Island, that also need addressed. Oftentimes we close the park and, evacuate campers. I don't want to make that sound like that's a low priority.
Okay. Is that good? All right. A couple things here. I can give you a guesstimate, but I'm going to say it's at least several hours of happy crap. The design of putting the sleeves in, I've personally done a dock locally for almost 26 years, almost identical to this in its application. The only difference is those piles that you're driving in, the sleeves you're driving in, are connected laterally. Okay, so once they set in the mud, that's it. They haven't moved in all the years that I've done this. And everything was prefabbed. I could take that dock by myself outside of the float, and I can disassemble and put it in the upland in about 3.5 hours. And it's not fun, but I can do it. I use rollers. The Egyptians made pyramids. You can do anything, all right? My guesstimate with people, the way this is, removing the sleeves, things are bolted. As long as you don't snap, drop your tools in like I do, you should be all right. The stairs, platform, no issues in my eyes. There's some hurdles on this. You've heard about the velocity. It's an ACEC timeline of disassembling this. One little thing that gets right in my claw. Bless you for making that ADA compliant. How does anybody get down there? That's just a comment. It's not. It doesn't need a response.
Maybe a better not respond.
Yeah, it's.
I don't have any.
Yeah, and I've dealt with ADA compliant things, and it's wonderful to get somebody in. A lot of times it's getting them out. Once you have somebody in a building, it's getting out of the building. It's more, the egresses are, I do appreciate what you did there. I think that's, it was mandatory, but I appreciate it. The other thing that's in the next part of my claw over here, it's a little deeper. I really have an issue with the buried conduit and the electrical line. I am not in favor of that whatsoever, because I think that that's going to trip you up. Where you have everything removable, and you're saying detachable. When you say detachable electrical service box, you still got a wire inside there. You're disconnecting whatever service port you got, but you've got the hard wire going into the boathouse. And it can be very dynamic. And you're trenching it in, and I would imagine sands drift and come and go. And I just have a tough time thinking that Mother Nature is far superior in design than we are. And even with that stiffener and the conduit and all that, you really have a hard time with that. The seasonal water line, freshwater hose, no harm, no foul. But that electrical, and the electrical inspector may have something to say about that as well.
So as part of this proposal, we reached out to talk to some of the neighbors, the Quoit Bay Yacht Club, and some of our neighbors on the east as well, and that issue came up. We talked about it, and when you use the word trip you up, the thought was, well, first for some of this equipment, some of it's been used recently in a recent deployment that need electrical service. We've done all kinds of things, running power cords down the beach, and those type of things. We thought this would be the best thing, but we wouldn't want this dock to be tripped up over that. So I can say, would be willing to amend that if that's the issue. And there is one other thing it takes care of if that's the case. And if I'm speaking out of turn, Chris, jump in here. is that then everything can go below surface. Those, the buried piles that stick up a foot, which some of the neighbors were concerned about, well, when you pull out the seasonal stuff, that thing's still gonna be there. There's a tripping hazard to people, or shellfish and anything like that. That would also take care of that problem too. So it's, you get a twofer on that one, if we gave that up. And I don't think it, the main thing is supporting the type of stuff Nancy talked about and the stuff that Chris talked about. And I don't think just having the physical access would be the main hurdle that we'd cross, and that would be worth it,
I'm glad you addressed that, because that would have been coming up.
So, yeah, I'm saying that.
The other one, timeline. It's a seasonal dock. When's the latest you want to use this?
Yeah, so Chris might be able to speak better than I can on that, because my season ends a little earlier than his, so.
Yeah, well, I think as you well know, Mr. Chair, there's a winter season with potential for ice. So some years we get away with it. Most years we don't get away with it totally, and some years we really don't get away with it. And it wreaks havoc on standing docks, those that aren't put in properly or not deep enough. So, I mean, personally, from a research thing, when it's not ice, it's research time. And so I'd say a 3-season dock is what I sort of need from a research end, or would like to see from a research end. From our more camp operations, even the field season itself tends to be a field season for most researchers. In other words, our hot research time starts in May and runs through August, maybe early September. But then it tends to slow down. But we have some extremely active users. They're asking me when the ice is going to come in. That's when they want to pull their stuff. And we also have our monitoring equipment out in Quoit Bay and in Sage Lot are our 2 open water sites. Currently, they can't handle being in the, we can put them under ice, but we risk having them towed out with the ice out to, I've seen one dragged a mile with a 300-pound mooring on it. So well aware of those conditions. But so it would probably come out in late fall and probably wouldn't go back much in before. I mean, you can almost take the seasons. December, go back in late March. Come out in early December, go back in late March. That would be my preference. But we could probably work around that. Our most active time is May through September.
Thank you.
Okay.
We've had, I want to be clear on something. The variances from this are a hardship, not just for you, but for us. It's not easy to, well, actually it is. But there is a compelling amount of testimony this evening about the benefit of things. One of them, which was the handout that you gave us. And it does show that it's not just a Wacoit thing. It's a, that may be the hub of the wagon wheel, but there's many spokes that come out of that. I have had children that participated in programs there. I've often thought having special moments there myself. So it's a dear thing, but we wrestle with the reality of our regulations, which this does not meet on a couple different levels. We've addressed some of the concerns that I've had personally, and I think that would be, like you said, you're amenable to making this as palatable as possible. I know that I have enough information.
Excuse me, is this the time anyone else can say something, or is that after you adjourn?
No, I'm gonna open it up to the floor in a
Okay,
moment.
thank you, sorry.
I'm not gonna stop anybody from talking.
Thank you, I just wasn't sure of the order of things.
Okay, we'll do that in a moment.
Thank you.
how many campers do you have on Washburn Island at some point?
That's one thing I didn't bring with us. We have 10 campsites. One's a group site, holds up to 25, plus what we call our scout site. So most weekends we have a scout troop out there. And then we have 9 family sites, which, you know, are smaller sites, a family, normally about 4 or 5. So figure at any given night, there's 70 people out there. It's more the day use areas on Washburn. If any of your voters are familiar, that goes into the, you know, on 4th of July weekends and busy weekends, you know, hundreds of boats out there at a time on the island.
Does the dock
The dock-
offer an added safety for getting somebody off the island if they put a nail in their foot or whatever?
I mean, of course it does. You know, currently we, you know, often will load and unload. So nobody can go to Washburn from our facility. You know, we don't allow private boats to access there. You know, we
Okay.
control, besides shellfishermen and what we take down ourselves, you know, classes and things, we don't allow public access there. Of course, if there's an emergency, we normally, what now is we'll bring people to wherever is nearest, to be honest with you. So, you know, we'll bring them a quick Band-Aid many times. But, you know, it makes it faster for us to respond from headquarters. Because, you know, if you're in operations and there's a boat on the dock, you just head out. But the main intent is to support the research and the...
Yeah, I'm
And it's more, to be honest with you, support of Washburn, it's more us. You know, we have to take a lot of stuff up there to set up every year and bring a lot of stuff in. It's, you know, the dock would be very supportive of that.
Okay.
For the island managers coming in and out. But, yeah, I guess what you're saying, it could be true, but I don't think that would be the main intent. You know, 'cause we
I
have other
appreciate your
places.
honesty.
Yeah, we could use other places in that situation. We have to.
Mr. Chair, I actually just had a reaction to your comment about the public benefit. And, you know, as somebody who works in the research center at Cooley, I'm very favorably disposed to supporting something that advances research. And the public benefit, as far as I can see it, that is of real value is the immediate access or physical access of students and others who, from the public who come there. As for this kind of research, which is very important and produces important public benefits and is paid for with public money, I would say that you can also look at a list like this and say the current conditions aren't preventing this kind of work from being done. It would, I know, make things more convenient for the researchers, possibly a little more cost effective for all of us if we look at it from the standpoint of taxpayers. But I think on balance, this list indicates that they're doing a wonderful job with facilities they have now. So as far as from a legal standpoint of a hardship, I see this weighing in the opposite direction.
Thank you. Is there enough information for the board to close the hearing? I'll get to you in just a moment. Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second. Perfect.
There were 3 of us.
At this point in time, I'd like to open up to the public if there's any public comment.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Mary Jane Comery, and I live at the head of McCoy Bay at 68 Whistler Way, and I'm a neighbor to Whitner. I am a huge supporter of this organization and have been for 20 years that I've lived at the head of the bay. I volunteered there for over 10 years. I was on the initial committee that came up with the idea for the annual block party. We invite the campers and the school children to hundreds of children to walk across our beach so they can go down to the wetlands area down there. We welcome that. My husband and I take our boat and with volunteers and help clean up Washburn Island and South Cape Beach. So I'm very much grateful for the science that takes place at that facility. And bottom line, my husband Chet and I are huge supporters and neighbors of women. However, I have to say I'm absolutely very much against this dock. It's in a velocity zone. I don't think I need to tell the Conservation Committee what the hazards are to having a dock in a velocity zone. There are 4 permanent pilings in there, and that if they let loose during a hurricane, they become missiles and can fly into my house, into my bank, into Webner's property, and can cause a major, major problem. And if they're unable to get that dock out in time, or if it's an under-forecasted storm, or a sudden storm which happens with Mother Nature, particularly at the head of Wacoit Bay, the winds are unbelievable there. I think you said that, you know, even if it's not a hurricane, it can be an important storm. And just a couple Augusts ago, there was a small hurricane that came through. There was absolutely no rain on that day, but 3 huge sailboats let loose and ended up on the beach along my house. Came across, if there had been a dock there, it would have gone crashing into that dock, and pieces would have flown, and it could have become a major hazard. In the no-name storm years ago, I can't tell you how many boats ended up at the head of the bay on the beach. Boat after boat after boat piled on that beach. And if there had been a dock there, that would have made a horrible situation even worse. I do think this organization would make every effort to get the dock out, but it's not a perfect situation, and we have to have a lot of respect for Mother Nature, and I'm very fearful of the ramifications of having those pilings and a dock at the head of that bay. So that's my main concern. My second concern is that this is a major, lovely, wonderful shellfishing area. It's pristine there. And there are a lot of shellfish there because we're lucky enough to take advantage of it, and people come down through Webner and do shellfishing there on a regular basis. As in terms of the school children, I hear what you're saying about the kids in the shoes, but I also am witness to, I don't know how many kids take their shoes off and wade into the water. They have a blast doing that. I don't see that many kids personally, and I'm down there all the time. The kids are walking across our sand all the time, and they have a nice time. I don't think it prevents them from doing, maybe some of them are shy about going in, but an awful lot of the kids take their shoes off and go in and are able to do the experiments. So, let me just look at my notes to make sure. You know, in terms of whether, you know, what criteria, when will they, how do they make a determination when to take that dock out and when not to take the dock out? You know, is it when it's like a major category 3 hurricane? Is it when it's a 1, when it's a tropical storm? You know, and is there a lot of room for human error there? You know, so that's back to my other point, I guess. We asked to meet with Webner, and they invited us, the neighbors, to come in, and we had a wonderful discussion. But what I heard loud and clear is that this dock would be a convenience. It would be so much more convenient for our scientists not to have to wade out into the water a little bit and carry their equipment in. It would be convenient for the land managers to walk on a dock versus just walking into the water a little bit to so I don't have to bring my coolers and stuff into my boat too, although I don't do any wonderful science like these guys do. But it's not a hardship. They've been doing unbelievable, fantastic science all these years without the use of a dock. And they use the town landing when it's a major issue with equipment, or, you know, right? When you guys use that town landing to help put their equipment on. And that's just very convenient, it's right down the street. So, I think that's basically all I have to say. I don't think it's a hardship. I think it's a convenience, and I think it is a major detriment and safety hazard to have a dock.
Thank you. Appreciate the input.
Is there any other comment from the audience? Is there any other discussion on the board? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If there's any discussion, I'm going to ask people to do it in the hallway all the way down. We still have a full agenda. Thank you. Next is 410 Seacoast Shores Boulevard, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to demolish the existing house and construct a 5-bedroom, single-family house with porches, deck, and stairs, remove trees, install new Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, native mitigation plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
I'll save any of my comments until after my presentation, like I tell everybody in town hall and too.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Amy and Jim Bogia. And they're in the audience tonight. If there's questions specifically that they could answer, or they may want to speak to this clarification. This is actually a continued hearing, but we didn't open it at the last meeting. We just continued it because we had a conversation with your staff about the remediation of the wetland resources. The original plan that we did didn't identify a dune. It identified the salt marsh as shown on the plan, and it identified a very low profile coastal bank. And we didn't really think there was a dune. And we didn't think that, although I learned afterwards that sometimes coastal banks can be seen with dunes. So we thought that there was no dune with a salt marsh and very low profile coastal bank, and then of course coastal beach. But during site visits, I think it was Commissioner DiGregorio on a site visit thought that there was a dune there, so and then after the cooperation, we continued the hearing so we could investigate that. project with you. There's an existing smaller, single-family dwelling on the property, and it's shown on sheet 1, and then it's ghosted and shown on sheet 2 for reference. And there's a proposed new house on the property, on the plan, I should say, not on the property yet, anyway. There's an existing septic system that serves the cottage that's within 100 feet of the dune, certainly, and I think it's within 100 feet of the salt marsh. The new house will have a new septic system. It'll be more than 100 feet from all the wetland resources. It'll be located on this side of the house. It'll serve the new house. It meets Title V, meets Falmouth health regulations. The new house is designed to meet velocity zone standards. We've shown the 25-foot zone from the velocity zone. There's some tree mitigation because there are some trees that we're proposing to remove. The tree mitigation includes 2 elements. We're required to, at a minimum, provide 1 tree for every tree we cut, and at a maximum caliper inch for trees cut. But in addition to that, we're required to provide 1 tree for every 1,000 square feet of mitigation planting. That's one I miss all the time, and Betsy used to always remind me of it. But I have been trained since then by Betsy, and I show 3 trees because of the mitigation planting, and I show the 5 trees because of the 1-for-1. I'm hoping 1-for-1 is reasonable in this case. So there's a total of 8 trees, and we're proposing eastern red cedar, and there's places to plant these that make sense. I talked about it with Jen, that it's within the 100 feet of a dune. The mitigation requirement, which is in excess of 3,000 square feet, is shown in green. We're hoping to reserve a path, which is the historical location where the foliage is used to get down to the beach. We talked with Jen about the type of plant material, and since it's a dune, we're hoping to reclaim it with beach grass part of it, and then link with that to more typical woody buffer, shrub buffer. There were 2 sort of, I don't know what you call those cedar trees, Jen, but they're sort of scrawny, denuded.
Tick infested. They were.
So we were hoping to remove those because they don't really have any environmental value, and the new buffer would be replacing that area. They're really not trees, they're really shrubs. Again, dry wells are shown. So I think this meets your standards. It was designed to meet all the performance standards at 10.18. I think I satisfied staff's concern unless there's something new, and I'm here to answer questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen?
Mike, talk to me about the design specs for the house as it relates to the velocity zone. Because it looks like the 25-foot offset just skirts that back wall, and then you have that covered porch and deck. So is that a solid wall, or is that on piers?
This is on piers.
The covered porch and the deck are on piers?
Yes.
Okay, and then that back wall where you have the 24.6, that's a solid wall?
Well, it would be, the house would be, since it's part of it's in the velocity zone, it's been designed to be a velocity zone house. It would have breakwood panels there, not solid walls. So the deck itself would probably be 1 or 2 steps down from this, but it would be on probably 4x4 posts, which are like pilings that would be open at
south walls are also gonna be breakaway?
Yeah, because any part of the house in the zone requires.
But they're not in the zone.
But if any part of the house is in the zone,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
you have to make the whole house. So it's all designed to meet velocity limits. They're,
Okay, the reason I ask that is because you know how I feel about breakaway panels. It is absolutely no secret. And I just want to point something out to the board. While I don't have an issue with the increased size of the house on your other regulations, the breakaway panels, I mean, most of the house is outside the velocity zone, so if the whole thing was in the velocity zone, I would be really arguing, because there's over a 2,000 square foot increase in the footprint of this house. So that's what I'm trying to get at, but as I'm looking at it, most of it's out, so I just wanted to be a little bit clearer on that.
yeah, we tried to get as far away, and we were hopeful to get it out, but because of zoning setbacks and septic setbacks, it's just.
Oh, I've seen you guys get really creative with septic setbacks.
And I know this is.
No, that's fine, Mike. No, I see what you did. One other question on your coastal bank, your transects, though, didn't part of that lot not meet the slope criteria? Or it's just that little lip?
On the northern side, it sort of faded away. Over
Faded
here,
away.
there was a lip.
Yeah.
That I thought I'd be challenged in not calling it a bank, and I really didn't think it was a good one.
No, it's okay. I mean, you and I talked about it. I don't care what the delineation is. I just want the correct delineation along the plan. So whether that was a dune or not, we asked you to look at it, and you did, so thank you. Where you have the 4-foot wide path, does that coincide with the little eroding area in that corner of the property, in that south corner of the property?
Yeah, because it's the only place that's not like vegetated where they walk back and forth, so there's a little erosion there.
You may want to look at that, see if you can create something where it's not going to continually erode down with people accessing that site. Okay, and that's my only question. Just want to get a better idea of the house design. Thanks.
Yep.
And thanks for the trees.
Okay. John?
No questions.
I'm still a little puzzled on the geometry, Mike. What is the elevation of the proposed first floor slab?
Well, the first floor of the house will be, I don't specify it because I didn't design the actual first floor, but it's required to be 2 feet above. I'm
Base
sorry,
flood.
The beam of the house, the lowest structural member is designed to be 2 feet above 13, so that would be 15. And then from the bottom of the beam to the first floor is at least 12 to 15 inches, so let's just say 1.5 foot for round numbers. So the first floor would be about 16 and a half. And the ground, if you're trying to get to the height, the ground would be, the ground is currently
Around 8.
around 8. So
So it's like 8 feet.
it lends itself to a typical, one-story below the living space on Highland.
Okay. And the notion is you want breakaways surrounding that whole area?
Right,
Correct.
even though it's only really clipping the D-zone, the requirements of the building code require you, if you're in, you gotta like design the D-zone.
Okay. No other questions?
Mary?
No, I don't have any questions. I always have some reaction when we're taking out huge trees and replacing them with small trees, but I'm not gonna give you grief about this. I think it's a reasonable solution that you've got here.
the septic system now?
I only know vaguely where it is, I don't know if the board is now. I believe, I've been told it's out into the front and to the left of the house, and it's like an old cesspool.
Yeah, it's cool, it gets it out of there.
Yeah.
And thanks for being cooperative. The staff on this, it's good. Any other questions, Mr. Chairman?
Do you have a design of the breakaway at all? Do you have any kind of,
We haven't got that far, unfortunately, I apologize for that. We just have general plans, they're working with an architect as we speak.
it would improve, just for all concerned, to have something in the record to do that.
Right. Is it possible to make it a condition that we submit them prior to applying for a building permit or something like that?
What do we do if we don't like them?
Exactly, that's my only, that's my, and I'm not opposed to them. I think people are aware of that, but I don't know what I'm approving. And I don't have an answer for that. I don't have a cure for that right now. A curiosity, because that's what I am. I noticed that this was, a renovation was started on the existing structure. Was there any like threshold met that all of a sudden I realized, you know, this isn't worth the bang for the buck, and then they just,
Well, there's a master plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, folks, they recently acquired it, and they wanted to just make it sort of livable for a year or two, and then design their house to the very specifics. They wanted to get through conservation, know that they had an approval, and then hire the architect to do the very specific construction drawings. So they were, you know, there's a cost factor there to sort of planning it out and then enjoying it instead of getting right into a construction mode. So that was the thought process. So they decided if they put some windows, they sorted things out with the building department. And they're just sort of, they're doing very basic things.
limited renovation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kind of hung up on the storm panel. You know, I don't know,
Mr. Chairman?
yeah,
Would it be possible to close this without, and then they come back for an amendment?
that could be a sticky wicket.
Or could we, on that theme, could you make a condition that the breakaway panel design shall be a design that has previously been reviewed and approved by the commission as an accepted method?
Everything is site-specific. I'd hate to reference a different site,
Yeah.
because that engineering is for that project. It's not necessarily, it may be so over the top for this one that it wouldn't be applicable, and it may be under-engineered.
That's, yeah, and you guys need, you want your checks and balances, conditioning something to bring it in. You know, there's a process where the paperwork goes through the town, and, you know,
How far,
if you guys wanna be comfortable, then design the breakaway panels and continue it and do it.
You got other things on your agenda, can we table it for like 5 minutes and come back on it? I have another idea I want to talk to my client about.
I'm willing to entertain that.
Yeah, sure.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to table.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to table and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, so moved. Okay.
We'll be home at midnight.
At this point in time, we have table 410 Seacoast, and when we go 145 Old Dock Road, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to relocate the existing driveway and the associated excavating, grading, and landscaping.
How is everybody? Mr. Chairman, this project was continued because Tom needed to get a sign-off from the, almost building department, engineering department regarding the driveway. That was done. Scott sent me that email. Did you ask him about the in-ground irrigation?
I didn't ask him about that, no.
Okay. I sent him an email today, because that was one of the notes I had. I think that was the biggest point, Tom, was the, getting the engineering sign off.
Getting the engineering sign off, adding a cedar tree where the dead pine tree is being removed, cedar tree.
Oh, yeah, and for the removal of the pine, and putting native plants instead of wood.
We put in native plants, we got the sign off from Scott, but even after that, he had some concerns in that referral about the visibility, the height, keeping them low. So actually, on the plan that he saw, which you first saw, had a wider row of planting here, like triple row done. Reduced the width, pulled it back from the edge of the pavement. So a single row of viburnum, dentina, the native shrubs along the frontier. Pulled back from the roadways to be better visibility, which Scott, the engineer, was concerned about. And Mario's not here, but he wanted a better method for delineating the work. We had both the silt sock and orange construction fence going around here, so visual and physical and siltation barrier for all the work that's going on. Satisfy those requirements.
I'm still gonna check with Scott about the irrigation in the road layout, but other than that, I'm all set. Sure.
Okay. Mary?
No questions, thank you.
Russ?
No question?
No questions.
Say town engineering comes up and says irrigation's gotta go. We close the hearing tonight, and that information comes into us. The applicant's gonna understand that would be what we would do. All right?
That was one of the things I'd asked to check on, Tom.
In the road layout.
The road layout extends, is
And-
not the edge of pavement, the road layout extends, what, 10 feet into the property? Well-
10 and a little more.
Yeah, it's the road layout, it's the town's property. People just extend their lawns and driveways into everything, into that unimproved part of the road.
That,
There is an irrigation system, I did ask in the last meeting to check with that on the road layout. If they say it goes, we'll put a condition in that if that portion of it needs to be removed, if the town doesn't have an issue with being there, you're all set.
that's understood? Okay. Is there any other information? Can we close?
Motion to close and take it under advisement.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any comment from the audience on this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Next is 47 Grant Point Road, North Falmouth. A request to amend the existing order of conditions to add fill to the front yard, remove trees, install retaining walls, walkways, steps, native trees, shrubs, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. I jumped over, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I did, I jumped over.
49 Sharon Ave is Mike's project, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we,
So we allowed that.
this is a request to amend, this is a request to amend the existing order of conditions. I'm
I'll
sorry
be
about that.
smiling on you, Barbara.
No, please. Sorry about that.
Good evening again, for the record, Barbara Frapp here with Warwick and Associates. This is the project at 47 Bryant Point Road. It's on Megansett Harbor in North Falmouth. That was approved last year. And there is coastal beach, coastal bank, coastal dune, and all the associated buffers. It was a raise and rebuild, and it was done in such a way that there was minimal mitigation planting needed, and that's shown in this green here on the two corners. There was going to be some filling in here for access and for parking.
One second, Barbara, do you have those plans? Did you?
I do. I'm getting to that.
Okay.
I didn't make multiple, so I have, all right. I'm just showing you what was approved before. And the septic system is here. What they want to amend the filing is to put in a small retaining wall. A small retaining wall here coming around the corner, a longer retaining wall down the side. And we did all the calculations for the additional hardscape within the buffer to the resource areas. And now, instead of having these two little patches of mitigation on either end here, there's going to be all of this mitigation along here to make up for the additional hardscape caused by the retaining walls. There's going to be a mitigation planting of 310 square feet there of the usual species that you prefer, bayberry, Rosa virginiana. And the other component of this is along here, they're going to plant 6 large red cedars, and that's in exchange for removing a couple of cedars in here that are gone. This has been reviewed with staff about removing a couple of dead ones and putting in the 6 here. The last component is that the area that was to be filled to provide some parking for trucks, they want to fill in between these 2 retaining walls. That's why the retaining walls are being proposed there. I did put in my request for an amendment that we were going to put in about 200 cubic yards of fill, but in actuality it's going to be more like 140 total cubic yards of fill. The maximum elevation will be 17, but it will be tapered down to this wall, so it's not going to be 17 all across. The top of the wall here will be, the top of the wall here I believe is 15, the top of the wall here is 17. So it's not going to be 17 all along, it's going to have to taper down into this wall because we didn't want to get into having big tall walls, so the wall's going to remain low. And I do have this, when we plotted out what the landscape gave us, that was in your package, sometimes things are in a different layer. I just want you to know that we did put in elevation 17 max.
Thank you.
It's just that when it shows on the screen, but when it printed out, it didn't come out. This is from the center of, this is what you were missing. But I also have the plan that we prepared for you.
No, you weren't.
That's all right. Well, I guess I gotta give you this one for now. Way to open the door on it. This is the one that I thought had been submitted along with the landscape plan showing the wall and the fill. And apparently wasn't there. So that's the gist of the whole project. I think that you're getting better mitigation, a better buffer along the top of the bank. You're getting better trees. And I think it's sufficiently small enough that it could be in, and I'm hoping it is.
Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Barbara, as the board, the plan that,
This plan, what you wanted, right?
yes.
Yeah, and that's the one I have, but I will give it
So
to
you can bring it to the board and show them that land. plan, I did go over his plan with him, and some of that detail needs to be put on his plan. I think, now go over this, the fill area, and, it's not, he's not putting, he's just making it grass, correct?
Yeah, it's just grass, it's
Yeah,
not
that's what I
paved, it's
thought.
not gravel, it's just gonna be.
No, there's no pavers or anything,
The
it's
house
just grass.
itself was had to come up.
Yep,
So the first floor of the house is at 20. So if the maximum fill is to 17, that gives me 2 feet of, 2 or 3 feet of freeboard, because they're gonna have little plantings there.
what is it now? If you already said, I'm sorry. What's the current elevation?
It ranges from 11 to 17.
Oh, okay.
So it's a hole. It's a
Sorry.
slope,
Yeah,
it's a big
yeah,
hole.
Yeah, okay.
So they're gonna bring it up so that there's not so much foundation showing. They've got a little more of a level front yard, but they did have to contain it, because it's sort of narrow. I'm sorry that I didn't bring that, because
I just want to know what the two abutting properties are for elevations.
Abutting properties?
If you're bringing this up, like I know it varies, so you get 13 and everything. You know, if you're bringing
the
this
top of the wall on the
up,
right is at 15,
Yep.
yeah.
so it's gonna come out from the
So I
wall
just
up
don't
into
want
the
it
front yard.
going over here, going over that.
About 5 to 8 feet out from the wall. And the neighbor to the right is very happy with the cedar bump and the retaining.
You're saying that you can't redivert floodwaters, so you can't,
No, and
you can't
he's
redirect them. with
gonna
your
all
fill.
stay on his property.
Okay.
So right now, he's.
So everybody's property down there has to flood at the same level.
That's right.
Okay. Can you tell them to put a little bit more detail on this, or put the
I
bigger
will-
layer
I will-
on here and
Yeah, I will ask.
setbacks and everything?
Well, I think that,
Okay.
I think our plan, is there anything more that you would want that's
No,
not in
no,
our plan?
that's not, your plan should cover it.
Yeah. I didn't give you spot grades on the whole front because it's sort of gonna be tedded out as smoothed out. I mean, the walls have tops, so it's obviously not going over the walls. So it just, it's not gonna be 17 straight across.
No, we went through a lot of iterations of this plan.
Oh,
We did.
I wasn't in charge.
That's something else. That's
Yeah,
different.
that's,
Yeah, it's basically, that whole front area is just gonna be grass.
Well, except for that strip in the
Except for-
front
yeah.
that was already previously
Yeah.
approved.
right,
Back.
so,
Oh, here. Thank you. Do you want me to give you this right now? in
Yes.
your folder?
Sean?
Yes, I do.
I have no questions.
Mike?
I don't think it's a major change, I have no question.
Okay, Russ?
No questions.
The walls are, do we need some kind of detail, these engineered?
They're just gravity, they're just typical landscape
How,
walls.
how high are they going?
Yeah.
They're less than 4 feet.
Okay, there's the question. That's all, thank you.
Right answer, Bob.
There you go. I didn't get this all being totally done.
Okay, do we have enough information?
I-
Okay, I'd entertain a
Move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
motion and a second.
Thanks, Bob.
Any further discussion on the board? Is there any discussion from the audience on this project? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael, for
Making your life
making my life pleasant.
Entertain a motion to untable.
My life, right.
Not bad.
Entertain a motion to untable
I moved on table the
410 Seacoast.
14, yeah.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. How's this for a solution? It seems like the project is been well received. You want more detail on the architectural breakaway panels and things. What if I ask for a continuance
to October 29th, if you're meeting on that date, because my client is just very close to engaging an architect.
Okay.
And that'll give us time to give you your information, but not put us in a position where you don't feel comfortable opposing, and we move on and then just come back.
I, for one, am in favor of that.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I like it.
Jen, would that be a possibility?
That's what I was just trying to think. Yes. I'll
Okay.
be in town, so,
Even if something happened that we haven't foreseen because of conflict with some meeting, you know, if there's no, if you're not meeting the scope,
Yeah,
we could
well-
then ask for another, you know, but that gives us like a good 2 months to try to.
yeah, no, that's fine, I was thinking of something.
I am fairly, go ahead.
No? I'm jumping the gun.
Oh, I'm fairly confident that you get the flavor of the board, so I would entertain a motion.
The request of the applicant, I move that we continue the hearing until October 29th.
Second.
Motion and a second on the table. Any other discussion from the board? Is there any discussion from the audience on this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much. See you in October.
2 days before Halloween.
I'll put a pumpkin on the paperwork. Next is 49 Sharon Ave, East Falmouth, for permission to remove the existing retaining walls, stairs, and barbecue, and install a new retaining wall, in-ground pool and spa, rock garden wall, terrace over the existing deck, utilities, and the associated excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was continued, this is the pool project
Yes.
at Sharon Drive at Falmouth. When we were reviewing the property for the pool, we discovered there was an old order of conditions on the property that required the property to stay in its natural state to elevation 14, which almost brings it back to the retaining wall they're dismantling in the edge of the pool. Currently, it is cleared almost straight through to the salt marsh.
Right.
The understory is gone. There's trees, the trees are there, but the understory is removed. Staff had discussed with the applicant's representative that I would be happy if they vegetated the site up until about the 7-foot or so contour line. That way, the applicant could, because the pool project itself is not a concern to the staff, and the board seemed to not have major concerns with it. It's just that outstanding order. So to compromise and give the applicant a usable backyard space, we said, okay, plant up to the 7-foot contour. And they went off and developed a planting plan for that. I've reviewed it. I've gone back and forth with Jack on plant species and how far up the contour the species need to come to the property, and I'm fine with the plan that has been submitted.
Outstanding. Is there any comments on the board?
If staff is happy with the proposed planning, I am.
Yeah, I hope the applicant will be happy with this in the end. I think that they will find it to be an enhancement.
I agree. I think it's a nice plan. And there should be more buffer.
And it was a reasonable compromise, so I think it worked out well, so.
And this clears up everything.
They wanted.
We'll write the findings in a way where it does clear up the old order. The
Yeah.
old order has an ongoing condition that be forested up until the 14-foot contour line. We can revise that in a subsequent order and make that new condition ongoing.
that would be amenable to it. So I think that would be a good thing. So we have enough information. I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we close the hearing, take it on advisement.
Second.
Motion and a second.
This is simple. I don't remember if the old order had a COC. Do you, Jim?
It did, but it was an ongoing condition of the COC.
And then there's a,
Yeah.
and it's just, they
It
didn't
was,
follow.
yeah, it was an ongoing condition. It wasn't a non-compliance issue. It wasn't like it was outstanding. It has a certificate of compliance,
I didn't know if we needed to apply for it.
but that was an ongoing condition within that.
Any other comments?
I tell you, I always come look at the old files.
Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
Oh, this is-
Next is 146 Saconaset Road, West Falmouth, Mass. For permission to manage invasive plants and restore the coastal bank, install landscape steps, install an herb garden, plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we continued this for the DEP number and a letter from Natural Heritage. The project is not, will not result in a take of rare species, and we've received the DEP number. So I recommend you close it.
Move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Outstanding. Is there any comment from the audience on this project?
Jim, what's that DEP number? Do you have it?
Oh, not in front of me, but Mel will put it in there.
Mel put it in there?
She'll put it in the file.
Okay. There's none here.
Wait, see if Mike has that.
I have it. 25-4041.
4041. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mike. Seeing no comment, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is to vote orders and conditions. First is 52 Perch Pond Circle. 52 Perch Pond Circle Realty Trust.
52 Perch Pond Circle was the deck extension. Zach Lindsay from Bracken Engineering, appropriate mitigation planting, fairly straightforward, very easy project.
Get
My notes are downstairs, so I forgot to lug these up.
Oh, here it is. This is what I got.
I don't remember any conditions.
I don't, it was
I got a comment, plant in the grass.
planting grass.
Yeah. Get that written down,
Okay.
and that's all I got. If we have enough information to make a decision, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and since there's nobody in the audience, I'll ask the board if there's any other comment. Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 67 Nashawina Street. And that's,
That was the addition of the patio and the retaining walls
Barbara had
and the licensing of the dock that's across the street.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They needed to meet with the engineering department because their original plan they had to revise before you saw it because they had patios and retaining walls and everything within the town road layout. All that has been pulled back.
Yep.
So it's the increase, all of that has been pulled back, the addition of the patio, retaining walls, and the license licensing of the dock. I don't remember any special conditions on that.
Okay. Yeah, because that dock had been there
Yeah,
since,
and I think she's just outside the 100-foot buffer to the salt marsh, so I don't believe there's a mitigation requirement on this either.
just trying to find my copy of that.
Plan of July 30th, is that the one?
Well, yeah, 'cause that would have been the plan she submitted. Is there a revision on it?
This is also one that was a vast improvement over the one-time proposed combination of the two houses.
Oh, when they were merging the two
Yes.
houses?
Yeah.
Smushing them together.
Before
Yeah,
the-
this
They were
is
supposed
an
to like
improvement.
paint.
Well,
Oh, I saw that, I know. Yeah. Must be your, oh, she is doing mitigation plantings, excuse me.
Here and here, I don't think
Yeah.
they were on the original, right?
No, they
That was one of
weren't,
your,
yeah.
what's it called?
That and everything's pulled out. The original plan, where she thought the property line was down here, it's up here. But the existing steps, the town is fine with, we went out and reviewed it with Scott.
Yeah.
One lovely morning.
Outstanding.
It wasn't quite nice that morning. So it does have a mitigation requirement, excuse me.
We have enough information to entertain a motion.
Move to approve the order as discussed.
second.
I have a motion and a second. And no comments from the audience right now, so I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Nice to see one of our selectmen here tonight.
It was nice.
Absolutely. And I would entertain a motion because
Move to adjourn?
that's the one.
That's the one.
Can I have a second?
Second.
John getting that one. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
That was a very...